So my belief is people, when they passionate about something, they can make more than 100%. They can really do some stuff which they don't even think about when they passionate about this. So when you walk up and you're passionate and you want to do this, you basically can do anything.
Hello, and welcome to the Randall Osché Podcast, where we create a safe space for meaningful and thought-provoking conversations. We have long-form interviews with entrepreneurs, thought leaders, artists, and changemakers in order to deconstruct their journeys and to pass out valuable life lessons and life-changing perspectives for listeners like yourself, so that you can, as Randall says, learn their lessons without their scars. So whether you're tuning in on your daily commute or during a workout or cooking dinner, we are happy to have you join us. So take a seat, relax, grab a cup of tea, and join the conversation. Now, let's dive into this week's episode.
Dmytro Diachenko,
Yes.
Welcome to the show. For the people that don't know you yet, why don't you go ahead and take a moment and give a quick introduction?
Okay, guys. So I'm a founder of Porada.app. And this is basically a project where you can find a mentor or a consultant for an agency or a business or for your specific individual. This is basically what we are doing.
Excellent. Dmytro and I actually met because of the app. He had reached out to me. He saw that on LinkedIn I was mentoring a few individuals and thought it might be a good idea for me to check out the app. I did so. I was impressed, and here we are today because, as the theme of the podcast, Randall likes to talk to interesting people doing interesting things, and Dmytro is certainly an interesting person doing something interesting. So I want to dive into it's Porada.app, correct? Am I saying that properly? For the listeners, that's Porada.app. And it's a platform to find mentors or consultants that can help you accomplish something that you want to accomplish, correct?
Sure.
So you're the founder of the company, the founder of the platform. Talk to me about the genesis of that, and perhaps maybe that's a longer story, and feel free to take as much time as you want. Maybe that genesis story started with, companies that you had previously founded or started before, maybe not in the near future, but in the past a little bit. So how did we get to where we're at today?
Yeah, it's basically a good question. So the idea was come when we had a company before it. Me and my partner, previous partner, we basically did outsource and out stuff. This means like mostly outsource. This means like we had consumers who want to digitalize their business. This means like for whatever you have a business offline, and we basically help them to lead this business to go online, to get out from this paper stuff, etc. So in different stages, and me and my partner, we started together like only two people, and after 7 years probably we grow up to 80 people. So we had an idea because on different stages of this company we had different problems. Meaning when we had 10 people, we had like one problems, accounting, the business stuff. And when we have 20, 30 people, we had different problems, totally different than we had before. So you need to understand that it's heavy when you don't know how to work with these problems and they come in. So only one thing which you can do in this case, you can work with different companies who already did this and ask for their help. So this idea came there, it was like probably 4 years ago. But when we did the research, there basically was no market for this. People wasn't really understand like what is the mentoring and what is the consultancy. I mean, they a bit understand about this, but in some specific stuff, in some specific area or something. So after our company, we just partly sold this company. Time passed and I've come back to this idea and just realized that basically there is a market and I can work on. And after probably half of a year of thinking about this and how I can build it, I realized that I already have an experience to start the platform like this. And basically, this is how we started.
Excellent. So I have a lot of follow-ups there. I'm going to try to make the most sense here, but forgive me if I'm a bit all over the place. You said you started the first company with a co-founder, and did you grow that company? Did I hear you correctly? You had 80 people? Were those 80 employees?
Yeah. But it's not like so simple. We grow this company up to 7 years. So this means like 7 years like working and trying to grow this. There wasn't really a lot of money, I can say. This is basically the main reason why we become to the thought that we need to sell this company somehow. And this is basically why we did this.
So built a company from zero to two co-founders to having a team of 80 people and then selling the company, correct? I think that that's pretty successful. Just thinking of that from a high level, thinking of your past experience, what are your thoughts or feelings about that?
Yeah, in general, it sounds really successful. But when I was in those times, I was a bit younger and it was really like I burned out from this company. So basically after this company, I cannot think about some projects or something which I can start up to like 2 years probably. I just cannot think about this. When this is your company, there's a lot of things which you don't know. There's a lot of things which you need to realize and to fix every day. So when you just woke up and you understand that some project is burning out and some other project is also in fire, you need to fix it. It's like really painful.
Yeah. You had mentioned something there, and I think it's important for our listeners to, the idea of these conversations is for others to learn from our mistakes or our lessons. And I've made plenty of mistakes in my career and the things I've started and the jobs I've had. And I'm more than willing to share those with the listeners as well. But I think it's important, you talking about being burnt out. I think a lot of people face those similar challenges as well as how to avoid it. So I want to put a pin in that and come back to it because I want to make sure that we get back to where we started with the Porada.app. You started the first company and then you started to recognize that there were some challenges that you didn't anticipate because you've never started a company before, right? And you learned that through encountering those challenges, and a way to solve them is that other people that have done it before you had the right answers, correct? They had already overcome some of these similar challenges, overcome some of these hurdles. You knew, instead of saying that we might have is, you don't need to reinvent the wheel, just find out who did it before you and then apply those same principles to your challenges. Was that sort of the thought process?
This is why we started this company, the current one. Yeah, it's correct. Basically, it's not like something new, really new, because people already understand what is the consultancy and what is the mentoring it is. Only one difference is right now we don't really have a lot of platforms, like probably 3 or 4 of them, which is basically work on this niche. And what we are trying to do is not specific on mentoring by the people, like one-to-one, but our main promise for this platform is to help an agency and the companies who want to grow faster. They have some problems, and we understand that these problems is different by people to people, by company to company, and to help them grow faster. Basically, this is our main idea.
Yeah. One of my guiding principles, if you've listened to a few of these episodes before, is you get opportunities by talking to people, and not necessarily that the app or the platform creates opportunities, but perhaps opportunities to learn and grow, perhaps opportunities to learn from others before you. But I think that putting yourself as an individual who wants to solve challenges, who wants to perform better, who is a genuinely curious person, I think there's a lot of wisdom and knowledge that's out there in the world, retained by individuals like Dmytro, that you just need to put yourself in front of to learn and have these types of conversations. And I think that's the intent of the app, is to bring people together and to leverage the collective so that people can go further faster together by leveraging the wisdom of others who might have solved some of the similar problems before you. When you think about your first company that you had and then why you started Porada, when you think about the challenges that you had at your first company and how you learned from those. And then that was the idea and thought behind Porada, the app. Mentorship is a big part of that. And then consultancy is a big part of that. But just taking mentorship by itself, why is mentorship so important to you?
So I really didn't have a mentor, like real one who can work with me on a long period of the time. I had some consultancy and a lot of them, but I truly believe that, and I know this because this is something I believe in. When people growing up to some level of their niche, of their experience, when they professionals, in some stages, they don't want to really work with other people by like with the money, but they just want to share the experience itself because they have something which they can share. And the same, for example, this podcast, right? This is the same. We basically here because we want to share some knowledge to the people. So I believe this is the key future for us, whatever in we speak about our project or in general. Let me just elaborate. For example, you have a problem with the, I don't know, marketing. And for example, your marketing agency doing great, but you want to grow faster. So you can really try to find a mentor who already been in Google or Nvidia or whatever company it is. And you can just grab them on the 30 minutes call or 1 hour call and pay them a lot of money because probably they want to receive something or just for free because people is different and gain their knowledge. So you can apply this knowledge for your company like really quickly. And this is not something which you cannot find in the internet, right? Because right now is mostly all information is free, but this is something where you're confident, where the people who you speak with, they basically know what they're doing and they can share this to you and you can apply this to your company. So I'm not sure that I have answered on your question.
No, you did. I was just taking a note. And the way I think it makes sense to me is that anybody can learn anything, right? And a lot of times you learn by trial and error and you learn from your own mistakes. But what I think that you're talking about is learning from the mistakes of others. And if you can learn from the mistakes of others, that's a lot less painful of a way to learn. And that allows you to go further faster because you're not doing trial and error yourself. Like somebody already figured out the wrong way or the right way to do something. You just need to say, hey, this is my current challenge. I think you might have solved this problem for yourself or your company before. How do I get over this obstacle or this hurdle? And I think that's leverage in organizations to go further faster. You need to figure out ways to create leverage for yourself, and leveraging other people's wisdom is one of the ways to do that. However, you have to be willing to put yourself in a situation to obtain that wisdom and that knowledge. Just like Dmitry had reached out to me, we had a conversation, exchanged a few messages, and here we are today putting ourselves in a situation to learn from each other. Or at least for me, I know I'm learning from Dmitry. If I can provide him with any sort of wisdom, advice, or guidance, I think that would just be a plus. We talked about mentorship. Now let's talk about the other part of that. So the platform is for mentorship and consultants. In your opinion, or as the application dictates, what's the difference between the two?
Yeah. So basically, I'm splitting these the two different things because initially for me, mentoring is something where you don't need to spend the money mostly. So it's in people's mind, right? So they think if this is a mentoring, you don't think about money. This is the first thing. And the second thing is mentoring is like when you go in with some mentor who work with you one-to-one. This means for whatever it's your professional skill or something different. So it's when person work with you one-to-one basically. And the consultancy is when you have some problem and you want to resolve this problem and you don't know how to do this, or basically you can go to the internet, right, in Google, but you want to resolve this quicker. So that's where you want to find a consultancy. And just one more thing, I just want to bring this up. So if you think about history, right, previously people go to the libraries and try to find some knowledge. After this, we became to the era of internet, and right now you can Google anything in the internet and you can try to find this information. But from my personal experience, because I'm basically a person who get a lot of knowledge, a programming knowledge from the internet, from YouTube or whatever. I understand how painful it was, because there's a bunch of information basically, and you sometimes you don't know what actually you need. And when I started as a programmer, I started on the Upwork, but then I've switched. I need to go to the some company to work on, because in some stages of my life, on those stages, I don't understand what actually I've missed there, what actually I need to learn to become better in my niche. So that's where I tried to find a mentor, but basically it was really time ago. I'm a dinosaur basically. So basically I go to the some company who can teach me, who can give me their experience.
So mentorship is, correct me if I'm wrong, in your mind and the way the application works, is somebody who has wisdom, advice, and guidance that wants to provide that to somebody for free, basically, to help them on their journey. And you look at a consultant, which you can also be on the platform, as a paid service, correct?
Yes. And in this case also, mentorship is something like a long story, right? So this is something where you can come back to the mentor, and as a mentor, you want to get a recurrent events, or this mentor can guide you for a long period of the time, right? So you just, for example, like for 1 year, you're working in them, and time to time you call in or whatever, and you getting this knowledge partly. So I think this is also a difference.
And then consultancy is paid for, and that can be for any duration as long as you can afford to pay for it, correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
And instead of, abusing maybe the time of a mentor or their expertise or coordinating schedules, etc., there's a saying like, you get what you pay for. Not that mentorship information is bad, but you don't want to take advantage of the relationship, and they might not be always available when you need them to be available. But when you pay for consultancy, you get to dictate when they're going to be available to you, because that's a service that you're paying for, and they need to deliver on those terms of service. You had brought up a good point too. In 2024, you can find a lot of information. There's a lot of information out there. The challenge is sifting through it to determine what's credible and what's not credible, because a lot of people can say a lot of things on the internet, doesn't mean it to be true. And I know that from my experience in working with mentors and working with consultants, that's obtaining credible information from credible sources, from people that have been there, done that, or who are currently making a profession out of it, right? It's more effective and efficient and more timely to go to a mentor or to go to a consultant than to spend hours trying to find something on YouTube that's credible, or trying to find the best blog post about this certain topic. You could just skip that legwork and go to a mentor or a consultant who has been there, done that. And that to me makes them a credible source with credible information that I should probably heed and listen to and implement. You had mentioned burnout before, and I want to circle back to that point now. So earlier on, when we started the episode, we were talking about your first company and how you were dedicating so much time, energy, and effort to this company before you sold it, that you were burnt out. And because of that burnout, that you weren't, I'm gonna guess here, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, that you were mentally exhausted and you mentally weren't ready to do a new project for a couple years until after you had sold your first company. So let's talk about, for our listeners, maybe to learn a few lessons from your pain of burnout so they can potentially avoid it themselves. Upon reflection, talk to me a little bit about, how did the burnout manifest for you? Did you know it was happening when it was happening, or did it just hit you the day you sold the company, like, oh, dang, I'm exhausted? Was it a slow creep, or did it happen all at once? Talk to me about that.
You can find ups and downs in your life, whatever you have a company or not. So when we started those company, I already had some projects, and I had already burnout before it. And I already understand how this feeling looks like. So I cannot say that when we had a company that I don't understand about the burnout. No, I definitely understand what is it. And I definitely understand that this is something that I need to fix because it's not going well, whatever, with the company. So you need to understand that when you're a leader in your team and you're working with the team members, they always understand what you're feeling and what is happening mostly under the hood. So even if you don't talk with them, they partly understand that something is wrong. If you woke up and you burn out or just you basically, they feeling it. So from my perspective, they also understand that something is happening there. And I think we just go stage to stage. And after 3 or 4 years, after we running a company, I think I already understand that I burn out. But there's nothing which I can to do because my ambitions is really big. So in those stage, I don't have other opportunities or other way to fix it. We tried a lot of things. We tried to fix our pipelines, to bring the new rules, to cut the team, to get the team bigger, to get the different customers. And as I say, there was a lot of problems which we tried to fix. But answering your question, no, I think I've understand about my burnout. And I think I just don't have an opportunity or other way against it to fix it. I think I've been in this stage of burnout 2 years. And when you woke up and you're already in this stage and things is not going worse, but you cannot do anything with this.
So when it was happening, you knew it was happening, but it just became your everyday life, right?
Yeah.
Are you doing things differently with this company to avoid becoming that burnt out and learning from the lessons of the past? What maybe has changed with how you're approaching your new platform versus how you approached your former company?
So yeah, I think it's different. So first of all, the niche is different. So previously we did a lot of projects, customers, meaning in the same time we're working on the 2, 3, 5 different projects, and I need to work with different teams. And basically, when those high level, in some cases, you need to work with something which is you don't have a capacity for, but you still need to do this because there's no people who can do this. And in my current level right now, in my current company, I don't have such big capacity because we have only one product which we're working on and one team which we're working on. So I still in this operation manager, I still working with the operation, but this is something I understand what are we working on. And this is the first one. So when I understand what we're working on, I can create my own daily schedule. I think this is the main reason because basically back then we didn't have a lot of operation people. We had a lot of developers, a lot of designers and people who really do stuff, but all operation was on me probably.
Yeah. So the main difference due to the structure of the business, you were spreading yourself too thin before. And because this product app has a different structure, you're able to focus on one thing because there's one product, right?
Yeah.
When I consult with folks or mentor, even I suppose, one of the things I talk about, you had mentioned capacity. I think you need to understand what your capacity is as a human, and to avoid burnout, one, understand capacity, but two, you can only have so much influence on certain things, right? And from what you had mentioned, Dmitry, I was thinking of you were spread thin before. So you had, say, 7 different teams or 7 different initiatives, and you were spreading yourself across all of those different teams or all of those different initiatives. So your impact or influence was, say, like a mile wide and an inch deep, right? Because of the structure of the business. However, with the new company and the new platform, you're able to be deliberately focused because you have one solution, and now your focus can be, instead of before where it was a mile wide and an inch deep, you can be an inch wide and a mile deep because you have the capacity to focus on one thing. And I think that's an important realization for people to have. I know that I have had it at different points over my career of, even now, like, am I spreading myself too thin? And am I not having the impact that I want to have on any one initiative? And if so, then what do I need to, stop doing? What do I need to delegate? Perhaps is a question that you should ask. Somebody should ask themselves. When I started the podcast, I was trying to do everything myself. And then I realized I'm not good at doing everything that's podcast related. So I hired a couple of virtual assistants to help me out. And now I can have the type of podcast production that I want to have because their strengths are different than my strengths. And I can do what I want to do. And that thing that I'm influencing, my impact is an inch wide and a mile deep, where you're at now with your company, Dmytro.
Let's take a quick break from today's episode. If you are enjoying the conversation, please take a moment to look us up. You can find Randall on Instagram at Randall Osche, that's spelled at RandallOsche. And you can catch the show notes and other resources at randallosche.com. And now back to the episode.
You had mentioned ambition. I love ambition. I love being ambitious, and I love ambitious people. You can answer this question however you want to answer it. Perhaps it's related to Porada app, or it's related to a bigger ambition. But what's your main objective? What's the biggest thing that you're trying to accomplish? And maybe that's in the next year. Maybe that's in the next 2 years, or maybe it's at the end of your career whenever you see that.
Okay, this is a hard question. So let me split this to some key points. Not many people think about this, but for me, if you don't know where you're going, you will not go there, right? So if your ship don't know the way where to go, you will not go there. So for me, I've just realized this probably 2 years ago, that my goals should be a way more than 2-3 years ahead than my current point. So I need to think about my goals for my future plans a lot longer than a year or two. So this brings me to the thought where basically I need to understand what I will do, and this thing which I will do, this need to give me a money because I need to live for something. This is the first thing. And the second thing is this should be something which will naturally give me an energy, and I will love to do this. So these two things is combined in this project. And I really understand that this project is something which I maybe was prepared for. I'm not sure. I don't want to say this like a big words, but this is something which I really love to do. My team, which I bring to this project, is really great. Partly these people from my previous company, and partly this is new guys. But these people is really great. They are doing really great job, and they understand what they are doing. And so this is the first part of this answer, right? The second part of this answer, such as I need to have big goals, and my biggest goal why I'm doing this, because this is a stage point. My biggest goal why I'm doing this, it's get freedom from probably people who I need to work for, a bit more freedom from the money. I mean, understand me correctly. There's no such thing as I don't want to work. No, I can even work harder than I working right now. But if this is a thing which you're working on is really you passionate about, will be something where you have a more energy. This is going really great, and this gives you more energy. So I believe this is my point to the ambition. I mean, I believe this is my answer to this question.
Great answer. Couple follow-ups from that, because that's what I do. But the biggest objective, the biggest thing that you want to accomplish, right? If you had to boil everything down, it would be to create freedom for yourself. And freedom for a couple different reasons. That's one of my ambitions as well. What that means to me is partly financial freedom, and then also the freedom to do the work that you want to do that work with the people that you choose to do that work with, and do the work when you want to do it with. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because even if you will think about this, for example, tomorrow you have everything which you want. I mean, the money, you will have a lot of money, right? You cannot do anything. I mean, you probably will do anything like a week or two. But for me, I'm really love what I'm doing. I'm really love my job and what I'm really do. And basically, this is something which I want to do. And if this thing will give me a freedom, financial freedom, this will be perfect.
Yeah. To me, that's a good clarifying point. It's not about the money for the sake of money, but it's about what the money can do for you. And that what the money can do for you is to provide you and provide me the opportunity is to pursue the things that I'm most interested in pursuing, right? Like being a full-time podcaster. So like, comment, and subscribe. That would be super helpful right now. But Yeah, I would agree with you 100%. You had mentioned, I think there's a lot of stuff online, of course, right? And we talked about this a little bit earlier about pursue your passion and things like that. But you've mentioned this a few times that you're passionate about the project that you're working on now. And so your passion is currently aligned with the project that you're working on at this moment. Overall, so maybe from the listener's perspective, how important do you think it is to be passionate about the thing that you're devoting your time, energy, and effort to?
Oh, 100%. I mean, if you're doing something which you don't want to do, or you working on some job which you don't want to do, or basically you struggle there, it's something which you need to quit. So my belief is people, when they passionate about something, they can make more than 100%. They can really do some stuff which they don't even think about when they passionate about this. So when you walk up and you're passionate and you want to do this, you basically can do anything. So I believe 100%. If you don't passionate about something, you need to quit it, or you need to switch your job, or even what are you doing.
I would agree. I've been working for 15 plus years at this point. And as I reflect back on my career in some of the positions I've had, I've liked some of those positions more than I have liked other positions. And I have the benefit of hindsight now, but I've certainly spent too much time in some of those roles that, I mean, passion would be a strong word for it, but I know I didn't like the job and I wasn't even close to being passionate about it. I just was not happy to be there. I think that there's plenty of opportunities out there. I think a lot of people have an idea that opportunities are scarce and money is scarce. Opportunities aren't scarce and money isn't scarce. Just because you don't have it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And I think that's a better way to frame it to yourself than thinking that opportunities are scarce and money's scarce. Just because you don't have it doesn't mean it's not out there in the world. You just need to figure out a way, and I don't mean for this to sound easy, but you just need to figure out a way to put yourself in a position to be open to opportunities and be open to, putting yourself in a position to obtain those resources, to obtain the money, obtain the opportunities. Two people talking on a podcast, we can be very idealistic, right? We can say these things, pursue your passion. But what would you say to the person that is doing a job today and they feel stuck and they feel as though they know they're not passionate about the job, but they have a family, they have a mortgage, they got to pay the rent, they got to put food on the table? What would your best advice be to them to move on from that role or that job or that project that they're not passionate about to get closer to being something that they can invest their time in, that they are passionate about?
So yeah, I think my opinion is first this person need to understand or to find a thing which they really will be passionate about. And to do this, they basically need to try things. This means like besides the work, I understand that they have a family, right, and stuff to do. And no one was saying that this will be easy. It will be really tough. But to get away from this stage where you are currently right now, you basically need to do something. And what I will do, as I said, you need to find something which you're passionate about. You don't need to quit your job instantly. You can try it. You can find it. You can try it. If this something is giving you the money, bringing you the money, this will be perfect because you understand that in some cases you can spend more time there, or in some cases you already can quit your job to go definitely to this stage. But if you don't struggle with your job, if you don't hate it, you just don't love it, I would say this will be a good starting point where you already have an asset who work on you, and this some skill which you already know, which bring you the money. But in some cases, to find your passion, it can be a different skill, right? So whatever. For me, it can be I'm a programmer, and then I'm really passionate about the crypto or trading. So you can try it. You really can understand, is this for you? Spend the money, time there. And if this thing bring you some case of money, or you already understand, is definitely depend on the situation, right? But if you understand that you can switch on this thing and this bring you a money which you can afford for yourself, which can work for you, then definitely you can switch on this thing.
I would agree. Some points that I wrote down is, one, if you don't know what your passion is, find your passion. You could do that by pursuing your interests to see what you are passionate about. Don't leave your job immediately. That would be poor advice on my part and Dmytro's part. But what we are saying is you got to approach this deliberately and intentionally to find an alternative to what you're doing now. Because what you do know is that you recognize that this thing isn't motivating, you're not passionate about it, you don't love doing it. But in order to create a different outcome for yourself, you have to pursue a different outcome. And that's another point, to be action oriented, I think.
Yeah. So for me, also one more thing which worked previously, it was when I was younger, I definitely can switch on different things or different projects like really, really fast because I don't really need a lot of money to like live. But later I understand that right now I'm in this position when I really need to think about something a longer, even like really long time, because you need to think on everything smart. So every key decision, it's something which bring you to your next step. So because you are in this situation, you're in this situation because you choose for, right? So every time when you choose something, you basically become to this key point. So if this not working for you, basically you need to do something with this, and at least to change your, I don't know, mind or thoughts, or what are you doing on a daily basis.
Yeah, I agree. I often say to folks, and I think through this framework myself, is that one, you have to understand where it is you want to go, what outcome do you want to create for yourself, and then as you approach each day and the actions that you take in that day, you can understand, is the activity that I'm doing today getting me one step closer to that outcome that I want to create, or is it putting me one step further away? But it first starts, you have to understand where you're going, right? You wouldn't say, hey, I want to go on a road trip and then get in your car without having a destination put in the GPS, right?
Yeah.
You have to understand where you're headed, or else you're just going to end up driving around in circles. So understand what it is that you're trying to pursue, be intentional and deliberate about it. And then you can understand, are the actions that I'm taking today getting me one step closer to that thing or one step further away? Dmytro, this has been a great conversation. I have been increasingly more intrigued by your story, and perhaps we can do, an update episode a bit later on, but I can't let you go before asking you a few questions that I would love to get your thoughts on. So one of the questions I always like to ask, because, part of the genesis of this episode is I've learned things through my professional life that just were so simple that I wish I would have known sooner, but it's taken me 15 years to accumulate this information, right? It's not advanced chemistry. It's not rocket science. It's just basic principles. One of the principles I mentioned earlier was you get opportunities by talking to people. I learned that maybe when I was 30 and not 18. If I learned that when I was 18, where would I be now, right? Not that I regret where I'm at, but that's a piece of information that I wish for our listeners to understand. And I think that it could be understood at a young age. A young man or woman can comprehend, oh, you get opportunities by talking to people. I understand that. I'm going to move forward as that part of my operating system. So hence, this is why I asked the question, what's the number one piece of advice that you would give your younger self based on your life journey today?
So the first one, I've get into something really quick, and this is something which I did really great. Even when I've had a lot of different projects and startups before in the company, and it's all like partly failing in some cases, right? I still think that this is something which I really good into. I think I can say thank you to myself for it. And this is something which I did really great. And this is something which I go on this, right? And later, or right now, I realized that there one more thing which I probably can tell the younger myself to fix on or to change. It's not give up really quickly or just give one more chance. Because in some cases, I'm really switch up to different, to another thing before even give a chance to something to work on, which can grow better or quicker, whatever.
Yeah, I think that's great. So dive into something quickly, even if you can't guarantee the outcome, right? That's your point?
Yeah.
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 And then be persistent, right?
Yep.
Everything you want to accomplish is going to be hard, right? Nothing is going to be easier than the other thing. So I think Dmytro's point is recognize that and then continue to grind away at the thing that you want to do by exercising persistence, right?
Sure.
All
Correct.
right. Couple other questions I'd love to get your thoughts on. What's the most influential book you've ever read?
If I need to choose one, it probably will be it called Your Next 5 Moves. I don't really remember who wrote this, but this is really a great book about how you need to think about your future, how you can use in a reverse engineering to understand where you are currently on right now and how to get there where you never been before.
Excellent. And for listeners that have enjoyed our conversation here today and might want to reach out to you or use the platform, where can they find you? How can they contact you? And how can they sign up for the platform?
So basically, you already said about the URL of the platform. It's porada.app. And they basically can find me on LinkedIn. I've always open to talk, always open to new opportunity and anything like this.
Excellent. Dmytro Diachenko, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate you sharing your story, even the vulnerable moments, talking about burnout and how to avoid it going further. I appreciate you being open-minded and, jumping on the podcast with me. We just met, but I really enjoyed our conversation. Wish you nothing but the best of success with your platform moving forward. And we'll have to schedule a part 2 because I'd love to learn more.
I want to thank you for your time. It was really great, super experience. This is my first time on such kind of thing, so super great. Thank you very much.
Well, you take it easy, Dmytro. I appreciate your time.
Thank you also.
Thanks.
And that's it for today's conversation here on the Randall Osché Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope that you've enjoyed listening as much as we've enjoyed recording it. Many, many thanks to our guests today for sharing their knowledge, their experience, and their life lessons. If you found today's conversation insightful, interesting, inspiring, please join our growing community by subscribing to the Randall Osché Podcast on your favorite podcast platform and never ever miss another episode. We'd love to hear your feedback, so keep the community alive by sharing your takeaways from today's episode and use the hashtag Randall Osché Podcast. Your feedback and interaction fuels our continued efforts to build a safe space for meaningful, long-form conversations. So thank you so much for the support. Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep the conversation going.